Hello and welcome to Maman à l'Avance. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Juliana and here I share the experiences and thoughts around the birth of my child Aurélien. Aurélien was born in February 2020, premature and following a preeclampsia that developed at the end of my pregnancy. Before I continue with today's video, I want to spend just a few moments to explain in my own words what is preeclampsia, just to make it easier for you to understand what comes next. I am not a doctor, so don't hesitate to refer to sources you trust or to your own doctor for more details. But in my own words, preeclampsia is a pregnancy complication that usually arrives after the 20th week of the pregnancy. It's characterized by high blood pressure and signs of damage to other organs, typically the liver or the kidneys. If it's not treated, preeclampsia can develop into serious complications, even fatal complications for the mom and the baby. So that being said, in today's video I want to share with you the events that took place during the last 10 weeks of my pregnancy. That's roughly between the week 26 and 5 days and week 30 and 5 days. That's between the first time when at a medical appointment my gynecologist found my blood pressure a bit high, and the day when Aurélien arrived after an induced labor. In this video I would also like to share with you a couple of pictures later on, just to illustrate mostly my state over those 10 weeks. Particularly I think of a picture where I really look quite exhausted, and to me it evokes the the cliche of the pregnant woman that glows and looks amazing, and at least in my case that was not the case. So we'll come back to that. But to start, let's move on to the events over those last 10 weeks of pregnancy. It all started at an appointment on the 10th of December 2019. That's roughly about a year ago. I'm recording this video on the 14th of December 2020. So at this appointment, the doctor found that my blood pressure was a bit high. It was around 1410. So she said, okay, let's get you an appointment in 2 weeks' time and control every 2 weeks and see how it evolves. So I had a next appointment on the 24th of December and then another one on the 7th of January. And in those two appointments, my doctor saw that the blood pressure wasn't higher, but it wasn't getting any lower either. So she decided to give me a leave from work on the 7th of January. So this sick leave was meant to allow me to rest and see if that would make my blood pressure lower to normal levels. It was difficult for me to accept being on sick leave. There were several things. On the one hand, I had this ideal scenario in my head that I would work up until 2 weeks before my due date, and that's how I had envisioned things, and that's how I wanted things to happen. And so it was the first time when I was like, oh, okay, reality doesn't match my ideal scenario and I need to adapt. So there was that. But also on the 7th of January I was 30 weeks along, and so I still felt like I had a lot of things to prepare. for the arrival of the baby. So it was difficult to get myself to understand that I was on sick leave to rest and not to, you know, finish preparing things, going buy the last things I think I need, or that kind of thing, and allowing myself to rest without feeling anxious or even a bit guilty of being unable to do as much as I would want in terms of preparation. Something that really helped me manage those difficulties and that bit of anxiety was reading. For some reason, I didn't feel like spending my days online or on the phone or watching TV or on my computer, and reading really allowed me to relax and take my time, and so it really helped me. And over a few weeks I read quite a few books, but it's something that really helped me. Another difficulty that was already present at this time was that I was starting to feel a lack of confidence in my own body, and it's a feeling that grew quite a bit over the period when I was at home resting, and I will come back to it further on in this video, and I think I might even make a particular video for this topic later on. After this appointment on the 7th of January, when the doctor decided to put me in sick leave, I had another appointment on the 21st of January, and there were several elements that made the doctor decide to send me to hospital. Those different elements were that she saw during the ecography that the baby was falling off his growth curve, and that there was not a lot of amniotic liquid. She also saw that I gained quite a bit of weight very quickly over the last couple of weeks before the appointment. And also, although my blood pressure was normal at the appointment when she checked, since the previous appointment she had advised that I get a machine to measure my own blood pressure at home, which I did, and at home I saw that I had peaks as high as 1610 more or less, and so with all those elements she thought, okay, let's get you to hospital and do a complete preeclampsia check and see, maybe keep you in observation over a few days and see how we can manage the next few weeks. So I left from the appointment and went straight to hospital, where they checked my blood pressure. They also checked for proteins in my urine, and my blood pressure was normal. There were no proteins in my urine at this point, so in hospital they didn't think it was justified to keep me there, so they contacted my doctor to tell her that and to advise that they would rather send me back home. So what the doctor decided to do was, okay, go back home, but we'll have an appointment each week, 3 monitorings for the baby heartbeat and contractions per week. Every day I was checking at home the proteins in the urine, and also she was giving me regular blood tests. So on the 1st of January I went to hospital, but they sent me back home, and since then I was followed very regularly by my doctor. Over this period, after the 21st of January at home, I wasn't feeling quite good at all. I was feeling quite dizzy. For example, I wouldn't dare taking a shower when my husband was away because I was afraid I would fall, for example. I had this feeling like a bit of being like on a cloud, and also I was feeling quite restless. My body was, I felt like my body was stressed for no reason, you know, feeling like my heart pounding or racing. And also at night when I would go get up to go to the toilet, as you moms watching may know that it's so common during the pregnancy to get up so many times at night. I was feeling quite dizzy at night as well. But despite all of these symptoms, I continued to rest. I was checking at home the proteins every day. At the monitorings, the baby seemed to be doing fine. So it all evolved until the next appointment I had on the 8th of February, during which the doctor found again that the baby was still dropping from his growth curve. But most importantly, she found that my blood pressure was at 1610, and she measured and kept measuring and measured a couple of times, and the measurings were high, and she said that considering that, she thought I would need to go straight to hospital again. I remember at the time telling her, "Oh, can you measure again? I was a bit stressed before coming to the appointment. Might it be just that?" You know, trying to kind of make sense of it all, or rather trying to feel like I had some control over the situation. But she was really straight in saying, it's not you, it's not that you're stressed, it's just that there's a problem with your placenta, and that's it. It's not your fault, and we just need to manage the situation as it is. So that really helped me kind of digest the news that I needed to go to hospital, and that in her opinion we might even induce the labor that very same evening, because she said, as I see you and the baby that's not growing anymore, I don't think it's worth continuing the pregnancy any longer. It's time to induce the labor. So with my husband, we went straight to hospital from that appointment on the 8th of February. Once I got to the hospital, they took me straight into a delivery room where they gave me an IV with a drug to lower my blood pressure. At this point, the plan was to wait and see if the drug they gave me through the IV would lower the blood pressure enough for us to wait and not induce the labor that very same evening. Or on the contrary, if the drug didn't work, then induce the labor straight away. Luckily, the drug did have its effect, and my blood pressure lowered quite a bit. So we arrived in hospital at about half past 9 in the evening, and at around 2:30 in the morning, they sent me from the delivery room to a room in the high-risk pregnancy service at the hospital, and that's where I was from Saturday evening through until Tuesday evening. On Tuesday they induced the labor, and on Tuesday evening, when the labor was quite advanced, they sent me to the delivery room, and on Wednesday Aurélien was born. During my stay at the high-risk pregnancies service, the Sunday was quite a good day. My blood pressure was very much under control, thanks to the drug they gave me through the IV, and also some other ones they gave me on Sunday. And so it was a rather good day. I was feeling okay. But in the evening, I started feeling quite dizzy and unwell generally. So I asked a nurse to check on me and control the blood pressure. And at that point, I was having a peak at 1811, so it was pretty high. They gave me more drugs to try and control the situation. It took a while for the blood pressure to come down, so it was a very stressful evening. I was feeling pretty unwell, and it was stressful to feel that at that high blood pressure, you never know if there could be sudden complications. Luckily, the night passed without any further complications. But the doctor, following this event, decided to induce the labor in the very short term. So on Monday, she asked me to get a last echography done, where she saw that the baby was still falling from his growth curve. She also asked me to go see a cardiologist just to check that my heart was coping with all the stress of the high blood pressure. So the labor was induced on that Tuesday. At the time, it was my 35th week and 5 days of pregnancy. It was a vaginal delivery and it all went well, luckily. And I will make a video where I will talk about the labor in detail. But here, to close the subject of the high blood pressure and the preeclampsia, basically what happened is that the doctor had a certain diagnosis of preeclampsia after the birth. And it seems that I had an atypical preeclampsia. Atypical because I never had proteins in my urine, which is one of the typical indicators of preeclampsia. In my case, I had the high blood pressure, my baby was not growing properly, and after the birth they found liver toxins in my blood works. And I also had an abdominal ecography that showed that my liver was swollen. And also, I will talk about it in more detail in the delivery video. But I also had a placental abruption. So all of these elements confirmed that I had an atypical preeclampsia. Luckily, my doctor managed the situation extremely well, I think, with the information that she had. So mainly the high blood pressure and the fact that the baby wasn't growing well, she was able to take the decisions that I think were correct, in the sense that the result is that both myself and my baby were in good health after the birth. To sum up, I would say that those 10 last weeks of pregnancy were very stressful, and I think the stress was increasing through that whole period. I could feel physically that the situation was deteriorating, but also psychologically. It was very hard to manage several things. The feeling of having a lack of control over the situation, the feeling that at any time there can be sudden and serious complications that can change the outcome of things. And also, I come back to this feeling that I mentioned earlier in this video about having a lack of confidence in my own body. As I mentioned earlier, it's a feeling that gave me quite a bit of stress. I would say particularly during the period when I was resting at home, because of course I wanted to prepare as much as possible for labor, and it's well known, and we talk about it a lot, I think, in preparation for labor, about trusting your own body, listening to your own body. And of course it's something that I desired, and I really wanted to be able to enjoy the end of my pregnancy and to have a good labor. I think it would have been important to have this connection with my own body, but at the same time I had somewhere a small voice telling me, how can you trust your own body when it's betraying you in some sense? It's not, maybe I would tell myself, it's not managing the situation as it should be. You know, why is your blood pressure high? Why is there a problem with your placenta? What's all this? What's your body doing? And how can you trust it under these circumstances? So I have a difficulty reconciling really this desire that I had to be able to trust my own body in order to be aligned and prepare for birth, and on the other hand, this lack of confidence. It's something that I'm still working on today, and I think it will take me a while to restore that trust. It's a subject that maybe I will be able to share with you in detail in another video. On the other hand, once I was in hospital, I had, I would say, quite a bit of a change in my mindset, because suddenly I don't know, I didn't allow myself to have these doubts anymore, or I didn't have the time to think about it maybe, but I feel like in hospital I was a lot more concentrated on everything going well and really going through the experience moment by moment and decision by decision. So really I feel like in hospital it was a bit of a bubble of concentration and trying to stay positive. So that was quite a difference between the time at home resting and the time when I was in hospital. So there was this whole lot of tension building up, and the delivery was such a release for myself and also for my husband, who suffered a lot of the stress as well, of course. Although for months after the birth we were still feeling like the tension was slowly coming down. And also physically, it's well known that delivery is the way to heal a preeclampsia, and in my case it was very much the case that I felt 1,000 times better 1 day, 2 days after the birth that I did 1 or 2 days before giving birth. The difference was actually quite astonishing to feel. We're reaching the end of this video, but before I leave you, I wanted to share with you a couple of pictures, as I said earlier on. The first picture that I would like to share is this one. Here, as you can see, I look quite exhausted, I would say, and it really evokes this pregnancy glow for me, ironically. And it makes me smile when I look at it now. I want to share a second picture with you, this one. This was taken 5 days after I gave birth to Aurélien, and as you can see, I was already looking a lot more in shape than in the first picture. This last picture helps me introduce the subject of my next video, where I will talk about the labor and about how it was induced, but also I will touch on the subject of the moments after the birth and the days after the birth, when after an experience like preeclampsia, the mother needs to recover a little bit, while the baby typically goes to the neonatology service in the hospital. So there's this separation that happens, and in my case there was an impossibility to be with Aurélien as much as I would have liked to be there at the beginning. And so that separation I think it's a very important subject for moms who go through a situation like this. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Don't hesitate to leave a comment with your own experience, or if you have any questions or any other comments that you may have. Of course, you can also like the video, share it, share the channel, subscribe if you haven't done it yet. And don't forget that if you want YouTube to remind you or to let you know when I upload a new video, you have to click on the small bell as well. See you next time for my next video.